The next topic is negotiating topics of conversation. Conversation is an interactive process, and negotiation has a very important role to play in any conversation. By negotiation, and we know that negotiation is a process where two or more parties get engaged and they come with certain needs and certain point of views. And the idea is that when they are engaged in a conversation, their specific needs, all parties which are involved in a process of conversation, their needs or point of views are met to some extent, or that process should establish some common grounds which can lead to certain consensus. Therefore, in conversation, when people are talking, it is important that they stick to the relevant topics that are under discussion. Reason is that if you lose the thread of a conversation, such deviation can result into deadlock of a conversation or into an irrelevant exchange of ideas. So the purpose is that when participants are engaged in a process of conversation and they do have their own specific needs and point of views, then how all participants must remain relevant and stick to the relevancy of conversation by not only taking turns, but respecting and adopting certain strategies to maintain the coherence in a conversation. So we have seen that taking turn is not only there for the maintenance of coherence, it is also the ability to negotiate the topics of conversation. Rice has noted there is a strong social convention to be relevant. In conversations, this means sticking to the point and trying one's comments to those of previous speakers. So relating to what is being said before and what needs to be followed. The key is maintain the relevancy and coherence. Now, we will see some of the points related to this particular topic. It is important for negotiation that there should remain coherence in conversation. With conversation, the notion of coherence becomes a very complex process. For example, how does one person stick to another's topic? Are there in fact rules that determine what is an acceptable response to another person's statement or ideas? So, Schenck argues that there are indeed rules of this kind, although it is probably more accurate to say that they govern rather than severely restrict our responses. He argues that topic in conversation can be defined in terms of intersection of propositions across sentences. So they should be there as the joining point or a joining factor across sentences. Thus, if speaker A says, John bought a red car in Baltimore yesterday, numerous propositions are being advanced, such as John bought a car, the car is red, John bought it in Baltimore, and John bought it yesterday. If speaker B responds to one of these propositions, for example, I think a red car would be ugly, the intersection of these two sentences is the proposition, that is, the car is red. So an implication of this definition of topic is that only conversations, not individual sentences or even speaker's turn, have topics. So this, to cut it short, means conversations have topics. Now suppose instead B's response to the sentence is, you mean he's not going to buy my car? So this response deals with only one proposition of the preceding sentence, John bought a car, and adds a new topic, which is the selling of B's car. So according to Schenck, A has three options at this point. Number one is A may respond to the new topic directly. A may refer back to the part of the original topic. And finally, A can make a more generalized response. Then we have non-committal statements. They can be in the form of the statements which are common when there is a period of pauses in a conversation. Because any statement provides multiple opportunities for topic shifts, it sometimes seems that the flow of conversation is hardly governed by rules at all. We often find ourselves wondering, how did we get from there to here? Usually with some efforts, the path can be reconstructed. Now, another area which has been highlighted in this form is by Polo. He has analyzed conversational storytelling, which is quite similar to Jefferson's study where he saw the shift of topics in a conversation. Now, Jefferson in his study observed or have a group of children playing a game called Marco Polo. Now, in this game, whoever is it closes his or her eyes and counts to 10, while the other hide. Now, the person who attempts to find others by saying Marco and the others are obliged to say Polo, Jefferson observed the following. Two characters, Stephen and Susan. So, Stephen is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 8, 9, 10. Susan, 11, 8, 9, 10. Stephen, 11, 8, 9, 10. Susan, 11. Stephen, 7, 8, 9, 10. Susan, that's better. Now, if you look at this example, here Susan has stepped outside the game temporarily to make a comment about Stephen's counting. When he corrects himself, they return to the game again. None of the children regarded Susan's response as either irrelevant or a switch of topic. Similarly, in Polo's study, he analyzed conversational storytelling and found that it is different in interesting ways from conversation discourse in general. When one person in a conversation tells a story, the ordinary rules of turn-taking seem to be temporarily suspended. If a speaker is in the middle of a story and pauses, it is considered inappropriate for one of the listeners to seize the floor. Conversations differ from other forms of speech. Interactions in the number of people and degree to which topics, turn lengths, and turn orders are specified in advance. Thus, unlike debates, conversation operates without a rigid set of explicit rules.